Start to get rid of everything that's making you unhappy. The real beauty of my story is I had a choice. I could have kept doing what I was doing. My kids kept seeing me drinking and doing all those sorts of things, and they would have ended up like that too. But I made a choice that I wanted to be a better example for my kids, and that was the real driver for me to be able to put that work in. What are the things that are blocking you? Work out what they are and start to work towards removing them. There's a way through every block. If you can work out what that actually is and put the work in to move through it, anything's possible.
Welcome to another episode of Success with Purpose, where we help mentor you into becoming a more successful version of yourself. We do this through giving you access to mentors you typically would never have the opportunity to connect with. We explore their journeys, their experiences, their life-changing events, their fields of expertise, and most importantly, their purpose. My name is Harry Goldberg, husband to an incredible woman, father of 2 amazing daughters, host, interviewer, and interrogator of this podcast. And now, just before we learn from yet another exceptional guest, if you find value from these conversations, please make sure to like and subscribe below, leave a review. It really does make a difference. And of course, share with someone else who's going to find value. Now, listen in, pay attention, take some notes, enjoy. Let's begin. Aaron Schultz, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Harry. Really grateful to be here, and well done on the wonderful work that you're doing.
Well, thanks, mate. I'm thankful for you making the time as well to share your message. All right, so for the listeners, basically, Aaron Schultz is founder of the Outback Mind Foundation, where he's heavily involved in men's domestic violence prevention, also a mental health public speaker, an anxiety management teacher, and a private coach. Plus, you've done a whole lot of work as teacher of yoga and meditation for mental well-being. But when I was looking at your journey, and the reason I invited you on is what I really like about the arc of your journey is seeing you move from kind of like a highly commercial operations, HR kind of approach, and then kind of moving towards workplace well-being, and then much more impact focus for those who are actually in need in the more recent years. Or as you've said it to me previously, it's moving from being unconscious to becoming more conscious. So I'm really looking forward to diving into your journey. But before we begin, how do you define success?
Inner peace, peacefulness. I don't think it comes from assets. It comes from content within yourself and love and compassion and kindness within yourself. I believe that's the functionality and purpose of human nature. I think at the end of the day, to be able to find that inner peace and inner calm within yourself is really success in its essence.
What does that mean for you, though, to have peacefulness, to have that inner peace and that love for yourself?
To not have any thing in your road, to not have any real distractions which are diverting you from having that peace, so clearing your way so you can continually be on a path of feeling content and happy and grateful for your life at the end of the day, rather than struggling. We've all struggled through our lives, and if we're able to potentially move through that into a level of contentment and peace within ourselves, then certainly I believe that's the human journey, the hero's journey at the end of the day, to be able to do that, but also help others along the way that might be struggling to find that within themselves.
Okay, so all right, so the helping others as well. So you've spoken a lot about kind of enjoying your journey or having a more peaceful, happy, joyful, content experience of your journey. And then what about the helping others? Where does that come into your definition of success?
Well, it's definitely, I personally went through life pretty unconscious, as I mentioned, to be able to get led into a life that I didn't really want to, partake in, getting sort of through school and not being aware of, the positive options that were available to me. It was all about, getting into the workforce and getting into debt, and then having, I suppose, a level of anxiety be normalised within your life. For me personally, to be able to look at the way we're operating in Australia and then look at the way other people are operating around the world that haven't got much, but they've got smiles on their faces and happiness, within their lives, whereas a lot of people in my environment were struggling because they were they were miserable, but they were also trapped in the economy trap. And I was unfortunately led into that situation where, when I was a young boy, I often observed people that were really happy, that were ones that were helping others, and they were actually doing more to support the community and do things to help others, be happy and improve their lives. And they lived, full, successful lives, without any disease. And I just think that's really what we use the universe, but the universe is trying to teach us that that's really the way to go, rather than being distracted from that. I just think that's available to all of us at the end of the day.
Cool. Okay, so when you were a young boy, where did you grow up? What was kind of your upbringing like, if you're happy to share it?
A rural country town, so a small country town in Victoria, a farming community. So my family are farmers on my mother's side, and pretty much, that was a volatile industry to be in, because it was basically subject to the elements. 1 year you'd have a great year, and for 3 years you mightn't have a good year at all. So I saw a lot of depression go through the community when things weren't good. But I did see the strong people in my life, my grandfather and others, that were very content within themselves, and they were able to have some emotional stability within themselves, and they were able to sort of move through any challenge pretty well, and just accept things rather than sort of getting disgruntled with things that are outside their control and outside their influence. So I guess that was sort of ingrained in me early, but I sort of got distracted from that by what I thought was normal life, by what school was teaching me, and what I sort of was led to believe brought us happiness at the end of the day.
Okay. So did you find yourself quite naturally drawn towards the few people who were I think you used the term strong, emotional stability, those types of people? Did you find yourself quite drawn towards them, and do you find yourself naturally quite similar to them as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I knew that was always there, and who I was when I was young. That, as I mentioned, that calmness was there within me. I had an interesting start to life. I had a brain tumor removed when I was 3. I spent a lot of time in hospital. So yes, I had coordination issues and just had problems. Doing all the things that I was expected to do. Didn't get a lot of compassion for that. Coming through it all, I was lucky to have people around me which were quite strong people, and really ethical people. As I mentioned, my grandfather being one of them, and I just saw that early, that was a great way to live. When I got into high school, I struggled with it. I remember getting into drinking when we were 14, because there wasn't much to do in a country town. So all the boys would get together and do that. And what would happen from there would be great times, but then feeling ordinary about yourself. And then I reckon if mental health was a thing back then, I would have probably experienced depression and those sorts of I suppose illnesses or diseases, because we were certainly not doing what we were meant to be doing as a 14-year-old boy, while our brains are still developing. So at 15, I remember thinking, or just getting a message to say, you've got to go through this so you can come out the other side a better person. So basically, I went through life, being a little bit addicted to alcohol and all the trials and tribulations of that. Got into the workforce, got married, and got stressed because of the financial responsibilities of that. Just kept thinking that I needed to achieve more by earning more money and bringing more money in, but that was just making me a little bit more miserable and taking me down to the bottom of the pit pretty much. And the only way you'd feel good again was to have a few beers, but that would only be temporary. So that was the awareness that I had brought into my life in those early years, like in my teens. So an escape was alcohol, and it's not really a great a great thing to get involved in. So yeah, but I was fortunate to move through all that and come out the other side of it. In my late 30s, and certainly had to work hard to overcome those behaviours and get healthy again.
Okay, so you're at school. You didn't get much compassion when you were younger. You ended up kind of drinking with the boys, bored out of your brains when you were just 14, 15, kind of depressed, perhaps borderline alcoholic as well as a teenager. And then you ended up getting married. You had financial responsibilities. You were trying to work on your career. Did you have kids in that journey as well?
Two kids, yeah, absolutely, and really beautiful kids. I wish I had the time again because I was at work a lot. I was away at work a lot. I was working in various locations on a plane every second day. It was my own choice because I really wanted that sense of freedom too. But at the same time, I missed out on a lot of that great stuff with being around your kids when they're young. And unfortunately, I still see it a lot now. Lots of guys are still going through those motions. I'm very fortunate to be
Yeah.
able to have managed guys most of my working life. So I've basically managed male employees in the workplace and seen all the good and bad of that. But I knew myself that I was still struggling too. So I had to, as I said, work hard to be able to move myself out of that space and into a little bit more of awareness.
When you say you worked hard, like what was the tipping point for you? What was the moment where you decided this isn't right? I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah, a few things. I had a redundancy after I'd sort of made a company really profitable. So you might define that as success, doing well, getting bonuses, all that type of thing. You're performing really well one month, and then the next month you're out of there. So that really hit me hard. I never got really the support that I needed to help me through that. So I basically just went into another job doing the same thing, just for a different company. After about 3 years, got made redundant in that too, and I just basically felt worthless. So I felt like I was, at a point of suicide. I guess that was maybe 2008. So basically, I think it's very common with a lot of guys. We do lack that self-worth sometimes when it's at a critical moment, and that was certainly one of them for me. So I went to a doctor, a GP, a few months earlier while I was still employed, and I just said, look, I'm really struggling with stress. I'm battling with not sleeping, all those types of things. On the outside, it looked like I was successful. I had a great, beautiful house, overlooking the ocean and all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, I was really struggling, and I couldn't really talk to my wife about this much. She never sort of really understood me. So yeah, he gave me two options. He said, you can take medication or you can exercise. So basically, I went home that night, and there was a flyer in our mailbox. We never got junk mail where I lived. It said that the first 24-hour gym in Australia was going to open in Hobart. So I joined that, and I used to go there every morning at 4 a.m. Before everyone else got there, so I could work on myself. And I hadn't been physically fit since I was a kid. So that was 2 years in that gym to transform my body and get my stability back, get my mind retrained again to get some self-worth back and actually feel good about myself again.
Did you say that getting your body in shape also helped you get your mind in shape as well?
Absolutely. When you're not awake or you're focused on other things, your body is not part of you. Like it's a vehicle for you to do what you're doing, but you're not connected to your body. So when you've got a challenge or you've got some self-discipline, you start to look at yourself a bit differently, and you start to try and improve yourself. And then that gave me the ability to be able to work on goals and reaching targets with regards to how much my work capacity was building up and how much my strength was building up, and what that actually did for my mental health as well. So from there, I got out. I started to do some physical, challenges and pursuits, and I found myself, very, very strong and very, very healthy and very fit. I saw that I was actually maybe a bit better than the average person. I had lots of lots of cardiovascular fitness, lots of strength. Without saying that with ego, I started to compete in things and do quite well. And then I sort of got into doing strength and conditioning coaching. I started to work with professional athletes. So this was someone that come from, a suicidal moment, purely unhealthy, which was able to, turn that around. But what I actually learned was that self-discipline was the key to success. So to have that self-discipline that I committed to every day gave me the ability to be able to, figure out who I really am underneath it all, underneath the title of my job or, the responsibility of life, that I'm actually a human being, and I have the ability to be able to feel good about myself again. So that's what I started to do. I started to train people on how to do that, and how to be, content within themselves, and how to, perform at a higher level once their mind, sort of becomes more settled. So I did that. I actually went away from that. I saw that a lot of the work that needed to be done was above the shoulders. So I went away and started to learn meditation with the Buddhists. The Buddhists gave me the ability to be able to learn self-discipline at a totally different level, outside the physical body, like being able to understand the mind and where the mind's at, be content and compassionate and kind and grateful, and all these things which are fundamental parts of being a human. But I was still connected to judgment, comparison, and criticism, and those sorts of things. So yeah, that was a real game changer for me. And then I started to go out and teach that. Started to go out and teach people those attributes, and how to meditate and how to settle the mind down. And that was really a turning point for me as an individual, because I had to use that those 2 years working on my physical body to get to a point where I could learn how to be curious that this isn't weird stuff, it's actually real. And I saw these people, these monks, which were quite happy and content, and they saw their life as a success because they were living in a content state, connected with people that were like-minded, but they really didn't have much themselves, but they were in a community. They were living in a community basically that was connected throughout the world, and they were very happy, so they were very happy. So I saw all the assets that I had, weren't potentially making me happy and making other people happy as well. These people had a bit of a secret, around what that actually looks like, and I started to explore that more and more.
Okay, and you explored it more and more without necessarily even going down the path of having extended monastic experiences, or did you live as a monk for a period of time?
Certainly considered it, going and being ordained, and just living that lifestyle. So yeah, having a young family, it was not really achievable. So I basically continued on in the workforce. I got asked to become a partner in a business similar to what I'd been working previously in. So that was starting a new organisation up, getting it going. That was again getting back into the loop of hard work and all that type of stuff again. But I was a lot more conscious this time. I was a lot more conscious of being able to do it well and not affect my well-being. So I still continued that 2-hour practice every morning. I was flying to Mackay every week, working in Mackay every week, and other parts of Australia. But every morning I'd get up and I'd do 2 hours of fitness, or some an hour of running and fitness, and then an hour of meditation. And basically that kept me grounded. So I was able to keep a nice rhythm whilst I was in that job. The 2 other partners in the business were high-flying business people, drank a lot of alcohol, very attached to the material life and what that success actually is, which I see as an illusion. These guys are very wealthy, but they're very unhealthy, and I didn't want to end up like that. So I sold my share after a couple of years, got the business going, had a bit of a disagreement with one of the directors, and sold my share. That gave me a bit of freedom. my wife and I split up not long after that, and then I started to explore other forms of well-being like yoga, and started to travel the world and look at some of the healthier cultures around and what they were doing, and started to learn that myself, and then become a teacher of yoga and more deeply a teacher of meditation and that type of thing, and just saw the ability that we have to be able to self-regulate and settle our minds down and start to become better human beings, rather than being connected with the illusion of success as we perceive it.
If I can wind back a little bit and ask if you're open to sharing. So you sold your share in the business. You're already much more content. Life seemed to be going a lot better for you. You got your freedom from getting your share as well. And then shortly after that, you and your wife split. What led to that? Like, why? Because if you look from the outside, to most people, it would seem like, well, everything's now really going your way. You're healthier, like you're well, and then your marriage ends. What happened there?
It ended before that share was sold. I didn't really, do great financially, but did okay. But I just felt that I was on a self-growth journey, and my wife was still stuck, and it was I still love her. She's a beautiful person, but I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you if we had stayed married. I wouldn't have been able to grow personally, and I wouldn't be able to do the things that I was doing, or expand on that even more and more. So in life, Harry, we make decisions, and we're young. We may not meet the right person, early in our life, and sometimes we need to move on from that to be able to take us to where we're meant to be. And unfortunately, that marriage ended. But my kids are tremendous and much better for it, because they saw me in a healthy state, and now they're healthy kids. So they're both young adults, and they're doing the things that I wanted them to do. So they're going to the gym every day, and they're keeping themselves physically fit. They're on a purpose of doing what they're wanting to do, rather than getting controlled into a system that is making them feel disconnected. So they're actually they're doing really, really well. They're hopefully going to be successful human beings, because they're actually they're educated now to work towards their purpose, I suppose, at the end of the day, and what makes them feel good rather than disconnected. So basically the real beauty of my story is I had a choice. I could have kept doing what I was doing. My kids could have kept seeing me drinking and doing all those sorts of things, and they would have ended up like that too. But I made a choice that I wanted to be a better example for my kids, and that was the real driver for me to be able to put that work in, get the fitness up, all that too, so I can be a good example for them. The meditation is not attractive to them. They only see the muscles and the fitness and all that type of thing, but that's a self-discipline practice which will help them learn to transition that into other areas of their life as they move forward.
Yeah, okay. Have they already started practicing meditation and all the like as well? They're already down that path?
No,
or not so much yet?
No, they're both into the gym, quite heavily, and both very very fit. Both of them could have been professional athletes. They both had tremendous sporting ability, but I helped them see that is not success. They're in a discipline for a short period of time, and they become a performer. If they're not meeting their KPIs and expectations, they get dropped. I've seen many professional athletes become depressed, and I've seen many professional athletes take their own lives because their purpose is gone. They feel worthless. They're attached to their identity, but I help them understand and.
Right.
Sorry.
With what you're sharing there, you're saying that their identity is overall connected with what other people are thinking of them, right?
Absolutely, yes.
To be a high performer, you've got to perform really well, right?
Yes, that's right. And you attach to that identity, and so was I as an individual, a high performer in the workplace. But at the same time, I didn't want them to live that sort of life. So they could have went into their sporting disciplines and been okay, but not the best, I believe. And I just helped them understand that they've got to try and find what it is that they love to do and what their purpose is, and then gear their life around that.
Right, because gearing your life around finding your purpose is what actually allows you to be able to pursue more of a purposeful life without needing the validation from others. Is that right?
Yes, 100%. Certainly, yeah, that is a trap of human nature is validation. It keeps popping up all the time within us. We're seeking validation from others. A lot of it goes back to our early childhood. We may have missed out on that. So it's a real trap. But also, what Buddhism taught me and other self-discipline practices is to be able to observe it and not be too attached to it. It's great to get acknowledged for the wonderful things that you do, but don't be too attached to that coming all the time. And it can be a real trap, to get involved in that. Some of my friends, some of my son's friends that have become professional athletes are quite miserable now because they're not happy. They're on this loop of performance, and they struggle with that. And they'll come at the other side as young men, maybe 20 to 21, with a few dollars in the bank, but not really knowing what their purpose actually is. So I think while the brain's still developing up until 25, it's really important to be able to find that. You look at my journey, as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, having to go through all the negative lifestyle behaviours. If you could help your kids find what it is that makes them feel connected and worthful and purposeful, and I think that's really important. That's the education guidance that I would have liked to have had as a young man.
Amazing, because I think that's a commonality across pretty much all the guests I've spoken to, especially those who have dived into meditation mindfulness. I had a guest named Dina Kaplan, which is amazing. She was in a tech startup, a tech startup, and doing amazing. Everything looked incredible until she found herself depressed, highly anxious, unable to continue, literally. And she ended up traveling around the world for 2 years, exploring India and Bali and all that. Basically went on
Yeah.
more of a Eastern exploration, right? And as a result of that, she can now see her counterparts from the past, people who are still like highly successful in terms of the brands that they're building up and the tech companies that they're building up and how much money they've been able to make in millions and billions of dollars, right? But definitely hundreds of mil.
Mm-hmm.
And she can see them and she's like, they're not happy. They don't have ownership of their life.
That's right.
They're not enjoying
Yes.
themselves. They're still just pursuing something which is empty.
Yes, absolutely. And I was heading down that path like a lot of society are, and I didn't want my kids to do that either. So yeah, it's about trying to create a lifestyle for yourself which is like not stressful, and be able to live life with purpose and live life with some direction, which is aligned to what we'll use the word the soul or the heart is telling you to do, because that's what's getting blocked and that's what's making us unhappy at the end of the day.
So how do you define the difference between creating a lifestyle, like the actual things which are around you, right? Like the job you do, the place you live, the people you're connected with, right? That part of lifestyle, and how you're choosing to perceive your lifestyle. How do you differentiate between the two?
Yeah, I suppose. Look, to be able to, for me, it was to be able to try and create an ecosystem where I feel safe. I feel like contained, and I feel like I'm in nature. Primarily rather than being denatured. So to be in an environment where I just feel comfortable on a daily basis sets me up for a good day, but also to do those things in the morning which get me grounded, which helps me sweep the subconscious mind and just get out of all the perceived thoughts which will take us down that path of discontentment, just to be able to come back to a neutral space I think is really, really is what is missing in humanology, but also to be able to, surround yourself with people that are like-minded as much as possible, which can help you, stay physically and mentally well. I think it's really key. And I'm not doing that so much where I live now, but I know through the practices and that I have it, I can take that anywhere, and I can do that anywhere, and that gives me that level of stability on a daily basis that can help keep me grounded. And I think most people in modern society aren't grounded, and most successful people aren't grounded. If you look at financial success, and you look at Dina Kaplan's story, a lot of the people that have performed really well in those businesses that she was involved in aren't grounded individuals. At the end of the day, they're still continually chasing on that hamster wheel, and the hamster wheel never stops, unfortunately.
It doesn't. Well, it does eventually, but it stops with you. Um,
Yeah.
and so so you went down this journey, and you went towards this. You started becoming a yoga and meditation teacher, and you were helping people kind of learn the things that you were learning as well. Why did your direction change before COVID or with COVID? What changed?
I first discovered yoga when I was in Hobart. Now I come out of that role that I was mentioning before with regards to being a director of a business with those guys. I knew that I wasn't on my path, but I was just doing that, for financial outcomes, which wasn't, as I said, like great. Like, what didn't set me up for life, but it was just a little bit of money to keep me content. So yeah, I actually got a role as a health advisor with the Tasmanian government to look after staff wellbeing, and that was something that I was really passionate about. So my career previous to that was managing large male workforces with multiple employers throughout the country. So on hiring staff to large companies like maybe Rio Tinto or Mitsubishi or companies like that, that are well known. So I got exposure to a lot of men, also a lot of women, and placed them into roles with various organisations, hundreds of organisations over my journey, and I didn't see very many of them doing workplace wellbeing well. They weren't looking after their staff. But also, yes, we've got an EAP in place. We'll put on a breakfast or a lunch buddy once a month or something like that, but they weren't really doing much to care for their people. So I was really, really focused on doing what I could to make a difference in that space. So I bet a lot of more qualified people for that role. There were people with university degrees that applied for that role. I basically went into it like with if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't type attitude. And they were very impressed with me, basically because I had the life experience and I was able to challenge the managers in the organisation that were ambivalent to change. So yeah, a lot of leaders in that government forum are very stuck, and they're very emotionally immature in many ways. So I was able to help them learn and understand that they need to focus on looking after their people, and that had a really, really tremendous effect over the time that I was there. I saw some great change with regards to stress management. I was doing things to be able to put interventions in place to be able to help people learn how to calm their nervous system down, how to manage life a bit more effectively. I actually challenged the government. They built a new hospital in Hobart. I wanted to put meditation rooms in there. They wouldn't do that. So still to this day, I can't believe it. But people need a space to go and disconnect, get in a room and just have no noise, and that's so needed for humans.
Were you successful with that? Did you manage to get that implemented?
No, they never did. They said people could use the chapel, so they could go into the chapel. So we had a lot of staff that were from overseas, and they valued meditation. They really, really valued that. But our thinking here is way behind other countries. It's starting to get better now, but it's still a long way behind. So after working in that role for a couple of years, I actually got really disgruntled with the bureaucracy that happens in the organisation. One of my the lady that employed me, she was a beautiful human being and really inspiring. She took a package after 25 years and got a lot of money and walked away. And then I got a manager, which was not great, wasn't really interested in what I was doing. So yeah, had that opportunity to exit it. But I was at a yoga class one lunchtime. I was doing about 20 odd yoga classes a week. So I was going 3 times a day to yoga and 2 classes on a Sunday. And I was really working hard on learning that side of things. And I was at a class one lunchtime and I just got this strong voice. As I said, the same thing as happened when I was a 15-year-old boy. It just said, quit your job, go back to Horsham and teach yoga. That's where I'm from, in country Victoria. So I did. I went back that afternoon. I saw a lot of the executives sitting around the board meeting with me or a management meeting, and they were just fat and overweight and unhealthy. They might have perceived themselves as being successful, but I didn't. So I quit. And it worked out that my dad was struggling in country Victoria. So I decided I'd go back and spend time with him. As I said, two kids. I spoke with them. They were teenagers at the time. They were quite happy for me to do so. So I sold my house and I moved back there, but on the condition that I become a yoga teacher first. And I went back to the community and started teaching yoga in the community to help the community. So I did that. I went away, spent a month, learning yoga, becoming a teacher. That self-discipline practice that I mentioned before, the 2 hours, was still continuing. So we'd start classes every morning at 6 a.m. I'd be getting up at 3:30. I'd be going and running the Sydney Harbour Bridge and keeping that self-discipline up, and then go do the class for 12 hours for the day to get our 200 hours in. And yeah, basically got qualified, and that was just the start of it. But went back to Horsham and started doing that, started doing men's work there. Previous to that, I was running men's circles at the Buddhist Centre in Hobart. So me and a monk would run men's circles, and I'd bring guys in and we start to teach them a little bit about mindfulness and about, how to stress less and how to, manage life more successfully. So I sort of took that awareness back to Horsham and started to teach farmers a little bit around what it's like to manage their body, mind through their body. So I teach them how to stretch properly and how to, loosen the body up so it loosens their mind up and they're not as tense and physically and mentally tight. So that gave me the ability to really see life differently. I got lots of opportunities through that. I started teaching yoga in prisons to maximum security inmates, and I just saw guys that were, traumatized little boys that were in men's bodies and never had any compassion for their behaviour. So they were punished for that. And, I gave them the ability to be able to feel safe and show them how to relax and how to settle their nervous system down. And I just saw people's lives change before my eyes, So that's how the yoga journey started. I started to do more teacher training. I started to get connected with more, qualified teachers that were able to teach me, various practices and self-disciplines that I could actually introduce into my own life, but also introduce into others. Started to travel the world a lot more, started to get around to those Indias and Borneos and countries where people are living very simply, but had this, innate spiritual wisdom, which was very, very powerful and very, very helpful for me. So you look at that in Australia. I was born in the 70s. Like, spirituality was connected to religion, and we connected. Well, religion here is responsible for a lot of trauma. There's a lot of guys that have had negative experiences through religion. So that was my take on spirituality. I didn't know any more, but when I actually started to look at what people in these other countries are doing, and it's really about being grateful for life and having this universal consciousness which is above anything. So that really helped me sort of shift gears more into that mindset. I've become a Kundalini yoga teacher, which is really powerful. Buddhism is more around understanding the mind, managing the mind. Kundalini yoga is more around the universal consciousness and being able to tap into our real potential as humans. That gave me the ability to just see life totally differently. I did a practice one day. for 12 hours. For the next 4 months, I was in this complete flow state. Just felt like, just completely centered, completely contained. Everything I'd ever wished for started to come to me. I never had to force anything. All these things were starting to pop up. A beautiful girl arrived, and that's what brought me to Queensland. So I met her and basically moved to Queensland in February 2020, just before COVID started. But in that, there was a real strong message to say, go now. But beyond the relationship with her, there was something else, more powerful, saying, you need to go and do this. Once we learn to start getting out of our own road, it's amazing what starts to happen. Once we start to really start
what was the practice that you're really focusing on there that led to kind of like this 4 months of flow state? Or I guess similar,
Okay.
I've somewhat experienced in terms of floating, but what led to that 4 months for you?
We, in Kundalini Yoga, we have a practice called White Tantric Yoga, where you sit on a mat opposite another person for 12 hours and look into their eyes. And what that does is it just moves you beyond any identity, by any perception, and all you see is a pure being or a pure soul, in front of you. And that is you within yourself. Everyone is very much the same. We're all very much the same at the end of the day. And once you learn that and you see that deeply, you let go more. And when you let go more, then everything that actually is intuitive to you and known to you at a deeper soul level starts to come into your life. And it's a hard thing to practice, every day. But there's those sorts of things, and these are some of the things that we're unconscious of as humans. We've got so much potential as humans that we're not aware of, and that's one example. But I know there's many examples of people which have had incredible experiences, which has not only just transformed their lives, but just given them the ability to just see how beautiful life actually is.
It's beautiful, and for anyone who's listening to this and wants to hear more of those types of examples, maybe you'd be curious about them too. Henry Schuckman definitely shares it. Dina Kaplan shared hers as well. Rajan Shankara, he was a monk for 12 years. And Jai Kith, who I teach meditation with, he was a monk for 10 years at the same place as Raj. And they've all had exceptional experiences. Like Jai's, I think, is the most relatable because he lost all his money during GFC. He was trading, he ran his business, he was driving his fancy European sports car, and he knew that all his money was gone. He was driving to the bank to see if he could get anything, but he knew it was all gone. And as he was driving there, he suddenly just got overfilled with joy. He lost everything that he thought would make him successful or make him happy. And then suddenly he was just overflowing with joy and love and happiness. And he had to even pull over because he had tears of euphoria coming down. It's like, what is this? He became a monk for 10 years. And so that what you've been sharing is really exciting. And so you got, I'm loving this journey, by the way. And so then you moved to Queensland just before COVID. And then what happened?
Yeah, I'll share something about the journey before I got there, just briefly. With regards to Kundalini Yoga, I was in New York, so in America, and basically I was walking down a street, and I just got this force pull me back, and I walked up these stairs, and this beautiful woman in white just walked out in front of me and said, "Oh, I'm such and such. This is a Kundalini Yoga studio. Would you like to come back tomorrow morning for sadhana?" So sadhana is a practice that they do every morning between 3 and 6 a.m., which just connects them to, their human potential and their consciousness through meditation, through chanting, through physical postures, practices, that type of thing. And then they get the gong out. They get the gong out, and it just helps the body feel, incredible. And I felt so good after that more so than any other athletic pursuit I've done. So it really helped me feel, what our potential actually is. And I got curious. So I went back there every day doing that practice, felt really good. I went back to Victoria, to Tassie. I was in Victoria, and I walked down a street in Paran. Same thing happened. I got pulled up these stairs, but this time it was on the left side. And this girl walked out, and the same thing. And they said, "Oh, I couldn't learn yoga, this, that, and the other." So within like 3 weeks, I was at a teacher training and become a teacher. So so that gave me the ability to learn to let go. Once we learn to let go and see what's happening for us, and what our soul's purpose and our soul's journey is in this lifetime, and just to be able to connect more to that is really a game changer with regards to reaching our potential and our duty and our purpose on earth, I guess. So getting back to Queensland, February 2020 came up. Meg was her name, the girl, and she had a great business, really well known and successful. And she was really frightened because of COVID, because of what was happening there. Now, I'm saying this without ego, my level of awareness was here. She was very, very conscious, but not quite at that level. And I just knew everything would be okay, but she was quite frightened by it all. So, that caused a little bit of conflict. So we split up, and I just said to the universe, "What have you got for me now? What's next?" So, I did a bit of work around the Gold Coast, loved it because it was COVID and I could go everywhere and no one was around. So it was great. Go to the beach and have the beach to myself. All the butterflies started coming back. Nature started to really showcase itself again without humans getting in the road of that. So I did that. And then I thought, maybe I'll go back to Victoria. And they said, "Look, I'm sorry, you can't do that. You're not allowed back in the state." So had a house down there, sold it, and just basically got offered a role up here in central Queensland. And they said to me, "Do you want to be based in Gladstone, Bundaberg or Agnes Water?" And I basically went to Agnes Water, but Agnes Water is the spiritual hub of Australia, I believe. It's amazing. So there's no coincidence that I ended up there. Went there, worked in that system, then started teaching yoga in the community, started doing some really wonderful things. Agnes Water was not concerned with COVID at all. We never had any real restrictions. We never had to wear masks, only except for a week. So we were sort of in this bubble, which was outside of all that. So I believe I was led there, for that reason. So from there, I actually went and started working in the prison system throughout Queensland, and just seeing all these guys that were incarcerated for various offences. But the same again as the experiences that I'd had in Victoria and Tassie, I just saw guys which were, pretty good human beings, but they were just traumatised little boys, and they were just emotionally unconscious, not aware of their emotions, not emotionally mature. They had the emotional intelligence of a 10-year-old, and this is where I saw a real need, an opportunity to be able to go and help those people become better humans, to help them become better humans. And there's a frustration there because the government systems and that don't really support these guys building their capacity and changing. But I'm just letting go of that, and I believe that'll potentially change in the future, because there's no point having this colonial model and this colonial mindset of punishment and keeping people unconscious. I believe we can start to do so much more in society if we give people the tools and the strategies and the support they need to be successful in this life.
It kind of sounds like a fixed mindset of other people. As in, these people are just like that. They're always going to be like that. There's no way you can change them. They were born that way, yes. Or it's just too hard to deal with. Let's kind of lock them up. Let's throw them away. That way we don't have to deal with them. Is that what you're seeing?
Absolutely, mate. Yes, yeah. And it's the wrong way to think. It's an old mindset which comes from that colonial model, as I mentioned, which is all about fear, force, and control. And it's not working in modern society. Modern society has evolved, considerably. Now, if you look at the philosophies of yoga and other ancient traditions, they talked about this moment in time as being a real moment of human awakening. How we're going to start to transcend as humans and start to really, see life differently. And I believe a lot of these interventions have sort of been forced upon us to potentially block that. So yeah, we're going to start to see shifts. So I've got no doubt. we're going to start to see shifts, this year and beyond, with regards to people, saying no to the direction that we've been giving and starting to take other directions and start to take more autonomy, to really function well in this lifetime. And that'll mean those people that in the too hard basket actually being given an opportunity to move forward and succeed in this life.
So what does that mean to be working in men's domestic violence now? Like what does your role entail, and what type of work are you doing ultimately?
Well, mate, this is a challenge for me as well, because I'm trying to do work with workplaces to help educate their staff, to help them learn how to positively react from a situation rather than negatively react to a situation, which can lead to consequences, how to manage emotional charge, all that type of thing. Now, I got a small grant from an organisation, because we're a charity, recently to go into businesses and talk about this. I wrote to 100 businesses and none of them took me up. None of them took me in to talk to their staff. So there's still this old thinking, as you mentioned before, in the too hard basket. It's not going to change, not going to happen. Well, it was probably the same thing 20 years ago with suicide, but now everyone's talking about suicide. So unless we're going to do something to face a problem and help manage that problem better, we're not going to get better at it. So yeah, that's the challenge I have, and I know all the experiences I've had with regards to letting go have just helped me learn to not get too attached to forcing an outcome, to let go as much as possible and allow those opportunities to unfold. So I know it's only a matter of time before organisations start to say, well, yeah, maybe this guy can add value to what we do. If I walked into a workplace and I spoke to a room of 100 men, I'm sure that there's probably 15 to 20% that are either at risk or have already offended. So if I can help divert that, the flow-on effect to their families and communities is huge. But it needs those employers to start to stand up and say, well, yeah, we need to dedicate a moment of our time for this, because they're only worried about the bottom line. They're only worried about profit. They're not really worried about, doing better to make better humans. They're only really worried about performance, and that's my I suppose experience, being able to work in industry but also work in that corporate setting, to see that I was a performer as well, and how disconnected that made me. But I really, as I said, I really believe this year and beyond we've got the opportunity to make changes now, which are going to help lead people into better ways of understanding themselves, so they don't take negative responses and approaches moving forward. If you look at life, Harry, we've all been geared to be dependent. We need to be able to start to teach ourselves to be more independent as much as possible, so we can start to get our control and our power back. And that's what the governments and so forth are fearful of, because people are starting to wake up, and I think that'll continue to evolve. It won't be able to be stopped, I don't reckon, for sure.
Cool. Fascinating arc as well. Now, are you familiar with Matthew Elliott? He was on an earlier episode, so like a year ago I recorded that conversation with him. So, somewhat of a similar background, right? Like you were even talking, like I chuckled before because you even used the term "love yourself" earlier on, and then 30 minutes later you were talking about growing up in the 70s, and he's like, "Go love yourself, mate." What he was growing up was an insult.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
he's definitely doing a lot of that work right now in the corporate space. He's doing that work in the corporate space specifically to try and bring change rate, performance, and the well-being components, which is exciting that there's so many people like yourself on this path, but perhaps not enough, right?
Yeah. It's, as I said, it's challenging and frustrating because industry and organisations aren't participating. If we were going to go and put purple ribbons up for Domestic Violence Month, they'd all be part of that, so they can tick a box. They won't do anything like that's really, really life-changing, like what Matt's doing and what I'm trying to do.
Can you share some of your experiences? Basically, if someone's listening to this and they're thinking, "Great, I can become more mindful and I can improve my performance, but I can also be happier and all that kind of stuff." What can they start doing? Like they're listening to this, they're kind of, let's just imagine that they're doing okay, they're happy enough. They're listening to this podcast because they want to get better in their lives, right? They're kind of happy where they are, but they know they want to get better as well. And they're hearing you talk about mindfulness and meditation and different forms of yoga, but also hearing you talk about trusting your intuition, and then also hearing about how you've had a whole lot of success in multiple businesses, which eventually led to redundancies and a whole bunch of other stuff as well. What are some of the key takeaways that they can start doing in their life and applying right now to start moving themselves to more of a aligned path or more of a successful life?
Start to get rid of everything that's making you unhappy for a start. So work out what they are and start to work towards removing them. What are the things that are blocking you? There's a way through every block. If you can work out what that actually is and put the work in to move through it, anything's possible. So, look at yourself. Maybe we'll use the onion philosophy, which I don't really like using these sort of terms and philosophies, but the core of who you are, you've got all these things on the outside of it that are getting in your road of being, who you are and your purpose. So start to peel them back and start to get rid of the things which are blocking your happiness at the end of the day. And it can definitely be done. I wrote a book a few years ago, and I said all I want is a yoga mat, a skipping rope, and a pair of running shoes, and I'm happy. I don't need all the other stuff. And that's really that's my observation from going into these countries and going into these environments, into the ashrams and that, where people were just completely content with not much. And once you learn to let go and you see that really is the foundation of happiness, then you don't need a lot to live. At the end of the day, I found myself. We'll talk about the journey again, but I moved up to Queensland with $100,000 in the bank. Basically, bought a place in Agnes Water, had a mortgage, felt trapped because of that. Because of COVID, it went up in value. So I sold it, I made some money. And then I bought this place where I am. I don't have any debt anymore. So, but I haven't wanted the 4-bedroom house with all the things. I've just got, a small place on 5 acres, which has given me the ability to live in an environment where I feel comfortable. But I'm going to use this side as a healing center where I can bring people in, I can teach them stuff, and I can show them how to strip away those layers of the onion if they need to, and how to do things which can help them feel better again. And I believe that wasn't my decision, that was made for me. I ended up here for that reason, to do this. And once you sort of start to look at life like that, rather than the judgments and opinions of the mind and that self-controlling mindset which dominates us, you realize that you're actually here for a reason, and life's guiding you to these places at these moments in time to help not only you but help others as well. So that's why I'm here now, and that's my job to be able to do that. And it is hard work doing this charity and going up against not so much going up against, but like talking to organisations where they're highly corporatized. They're run by people that have got university education, which is not really geared towards supporting and helping people. It's geared towards performance, and it's administrative. They're administrators. They're only worried about that. They're not worried about the higher good. And so I'm trying to do work in that space, but at the same time I'm getting pushback. Well, that's okay. I think that'll eventually take care of itself. But if I can create something here in an environment where I've got the ability to do so, to help others come when they need it, then great. That's what I need to do.
Amazing. Okay, right. So just quickly here. So if we take a quick wind back, you were saying basically that start getting rid of the things that are making you unhappy if you want to live a happier life, which makes perfect sense. And I'm with you. But ultimately, a lot of people will start freaking out about it, especially if they're hearing your journey and they start thinking, well, hang on, maybe everything's making me unhappy. Then I need to get rid of everything. And then who am I? And so
Yeah.
people I've noticed people tend to be very resistant to that type of message because they can't see the end game, right?
I
Or
was
they
the
can't
same.
connect with it. It's too scary. What can they start doing that doesn't entail giving up everything and risking that their life as they know it is all going to be over, but the steps that they can take that will make it very clear to them that they're going to be on the right path.
Yes. Do something every day that makes you feel uncomfortable for a start. So
Mm.
rather than getting up and putting the TV on and the radio on and having a coffee and reading the newspaper, do something where you're connecting with yourself, and it's making you feel uncomfortable, because then once you start to like get in that discomfort and you start to let go of that, now I've let go. Now some good stuff's happening. When I'm trying to control everything, that's when nothing sort of seems to go my way. So, so really to be able to develop a practice on a daily basis, whether that's physical movement, whether it's, meditation, whether it's yoga, whether it's, doing something to use the mind or whatever that may be, use your opposite hand more, do something which is making you challenge yourself. And then you start to see shit, I'm growing as a person. I'm not just sort of shrinking or staying the same. And that'll start to open your mind up. But not only it opens your mind up, it opens your heart up. And then you start to be more kinder to yourself, and you start to feel a bit better about yourself. And then all of a sudden, that transforms to other people. And one thing about COVID is it actually helped people like learn that this personal connection is so important. Whereas we've been disconnected on purpose. Where they've made us feel separated and dependent and all those sorts of things. Well, that's enough of that. We can actually like start to take an inner journey again and find out who we truly are. Once we start to find out who we truly are, then we can start to shape our life around that. And then getting rid of those things that are getting in our road become a lot easier.
Are you happy to introduce a little bit of the way that you start to teach people to do some of those things? Whether it's just a mindset shift, or if it's how to start doing meditation or a particular form, or if it's a particular type of yoga or something they can look up online that they can take away from listening to this and go, Aaron suggested that I do these couple of things, so I try these things out. What would they be?
Yep.
What do you start with?
Definitely yin yoga would be the first step. Yin yoga is a practice where you're holding the body open for long periods of time, which can be potentially uncomfortable. But really what you'll start to learn is the tension that's in your mind is going into your body. So really, when your mind's at speed, your body's reacting to that. When you learn to like breathe deep and you start to settle your mind out and your body starts to open up, then you realize you've got this amazing ability to be in control again. So yin yoga for me was a real shift, because I'd come from that fitness background. I was very physically strong and tight, but I couldn't sit still for 5 minutes. And when I was told to lie with my leg up in the air and all that sort of thing, it was very uncomfortable. But through that discomfort is where the real change starts to happen. So yeah, if someone is struggling to switch their mind off, or they're having some body issues with their body, by manipulating the fascia in the body, it's like a second nervous system. And after we hold a posture for 3 minutes or more, that fascia starts to be hydrated, and that helps our nervous system and mind settle down. So, to be able to commit to a practice like that before bed will help you sleep better. It'll help you wake up feeling better. It'll help you become more connected to yourself. And once you start to do that more and more, if you do it consistently, then all of a sudden you'll start to change physically and mentally. And yeah, just a simple practice like that, I'd say, would be a great gateway into learning meditation, and also other forms of well-being, which can help you, be a bit more, I suppose, connected with your body and your mind, and start to get really honed in on what you're here for, because we don't want to go through life and then get to the end of it and think, what was that all about? We want to make sure that we're here, living purposely and making a difference while we're at it.
Beautiful. Okay, look, I'm mindful of time for you, especially, and there are plenty more questions I'll be able to ask. But maybe what I'll do is I'll turn it over to you. Like there have been a lot of things that you've shared, and you've shared basically the journey that you've been on which got you to a successful life, which is the complete opposite of what you initially thought success was going to be, right? And so you went down, you went from not having much emotional support as you were young. You had some great examples around you, but you didn't know how to act on it, especially like you weren't able to follow your grandfather's footsteps, ultimately, unfortunately. And fortunately at the same time, because it got you onto this path where you went to different cities and you ended up traveling the world and you ended up going through different relationships and different corporate roles and different non-corporate roles and finding some things working really well and other things not. You end up in charity, basically doing charity work ultimately, and to try and purposefully try and shift the world and change the world or move the needle a little bit towards what you refer to as human awakening. And like the practical points that you're making for people is that you got to start to let go of the things that you're trying to control. You got to try and let go of the things that you're holding on to so tightly, because once you let go of it, then some other things can come in. You open up towards it. And you kept referring to this idea of discomfort, and it's emotional discomfort. It doesn't have to be the physical discomfort of running or sprinting or doing intervals. It's challenging yourself in a way that makes you feel emotionally uncomfortable, where it makes you feel a little bit more off center, and you start to realize that there are some cracks in this image of yourself which you're holding up, and this version of truth which you have. After sharing all of that, what I'd love to hear from you is, what more do you want to share? Like what final message or messages would you like to share to the people who are listening, so that they can start making some of these better changes in their lives, or so that they can start helping other people where they see that those people are struggling, that they can start helping them make better changes in their lives as well?
Yes, yeah. Think about Australia, and if you're listening to this and you're in Australia, this country is only 260 or 70 years old. It's not that old. And we've come in with this dominant mindset into this country. And before we arrived, I think the people living here had it pretty right. They actually had it pretty right. They weren't in control. They weren't they weren't being controlled. They were just living with the flow of life and the flow of what the universe is guiding them to do. They were connected. They were really connected, and we've got a lot to learn. We've got the biggest tourism draw card in the world in our own backyard, and it's not being utilised. The original owners of this country have been traumatised considerably. For the last 260 years, and we need to start giving them their power back, I believe, because they can teach us so much. They really can, about how to communicate well, how to live life simply, how to do all these wonderful things, and we're actually we're disconnected from that. So the real learning isn't always in India and those countries. The real learning is in our own backyard. And I believe, if someone's listening to this and when you make changes, getting connected with nature as much as possible is really important, because that's our natural state of being. Before we were denatured, and modern society is denaturing us considerably. Like, we're sitting in front of screens doing this, and it's not natural. I'd rather be, in a room with you, or in a room with other people having conversations. But we've got to move with the times in modern society, and I'm grateful for these opportunities too. But just start to think about what it is to be a human in its essence, and what are the core values of being a human. And you'll start to realise that these Indigenous cultures actually had it pretty well right. And the more we can do to live life a little bit more simply, and be responsible for our lives and our actions, and all of a sudden we start to take charge and control. As I said, rather than being disempowered as much, being more empowered. You've got the ability to empower yourself. So if we can start to empower ourselves by doing things on a daily basis that can help us, get that sense of self-purpose and self-worth and self-control back, then all of a sudden it's not only going to benefit our own lives, it's going to benefit a lot of other people as well. So it's just the little things and little 1%ers on a daily basis which can make a difference. And a lot of it isn't in books. You will get some information and wisdom in books, but really the book and the whole journey is within yourself. And I look at the enlightened beings on this planet, of Jesus and Buddha and those sorts of people. And they were just trying to show us what our potential is. And I don't get too connected to being like that, but it's actually like taking little guidances away from people that have actually like had it pretty well right to know that life is so much more beautiful than what we perceive it, because it is a gift to actually be a human and be alive. We've been given a gift. We're just going to start to realize that and start to connect with that more and more. And if you look at what life's trying to give us and support us on a daily basis, and be more grateful for that, then all of a sudden I think all the things that we get swept up in aren't as important anymore. And we can start to, as I said, move through this year and beyond this year with a lot more awareness and a lot more commitment and purpose moving forward. And really, that's what success is at the end of the day. Move through your lifetime on your own terms and exit this lifetime, feeling good that you've actually made a difference, and you've enjoyed it at the end of the day. It's meant to be a joy rather than not. And if we can start to be connected to that, I think it's really key. One thing that's really important to look at is there's a fellow by the name of David Hawkins that wrote a book about the 16 levels of consciousness. And if you look at those 16 levels of consciousness and sort of see where you're at on a daily basis and try and reach the higher ones, then you'll start to feel pretty good about yourself, and you'll see how society's trying to keep us geared in the lower levels, so you can really start to move away from that if you choose to. And I just want to try and do what I can to help people understand and realize that. I'm sure that's what you're doing as well, to be able to help people learn to take a little bit more autonomy and start to feel better about themselves and about life in general. Because once we get out of our road, as I said, you just start to open yourself up to all these potentials and possibilities, and that's the exciting thing about life. We've got so much to look forward to moving forward. And I just think strap yourself in, because the best is yet to come for all of us, for sure.
Best is yet to come. That's a perfect note to end this on. Thank you, Aaron.
No worries, mate.
So I hope you received a whole lot of value from engaging in that conversation. What were the key takeaways for you? What can you schedule in your life right now to make sure that the time you just invested into listening to this exceptional conversation with this amazing mentor and this amazing individual is time that wasn't misused, but was time that you've allocated properly to enhancing your life and improving it? Whatever it is, schedule it now, practice it now. Be the successful person you're meant to be. Live with purpose.